All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our storytelling in learning gathering. This is the sort of second time that we've kind of done a series like this, and it might be my favorite. It might be my favorite series that we do because I love story so much. When I was in college, I was like an English lit major, and that was my main thing. And grew up with comic books, and even now, my son is just heavy into comic books and manga. It's just a big part of my life. Even as a songwriter, it's a huge thing. So I'm so excited to be able to produce this one again. Hope all of you out there are having a great day so far. If you can, please type in chat where you're logging in from, just to let us know where you are, and also to make sure that the chat part of the interface is working. Yeah, you can see Shelly and Kim posted earlier. Starla from Sacramento. Let's see, anybody else want to pop in there? I know people are still entering the room. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we're flying by. Caroline from Salt Lake City, Elizabeth from Las Vegas, Nicholas, Harrisburg. Oh, Leanne's here. Hey, Leanne. Lana, excellent. Oh, Christy, yes. All right. So let's get started. The last time we did this series, Rance did a session that just kind of blew me away. And Rance, you probably remember I made a snippet of that last index cards sort of piece of the session that you did because it was so incredible. And even to this day, I still get messages every once in a while from folks that catch that and were just so impressed by it. Hang on, let's see. And so I'm glad to have you back. Let me read a little bio for everybody about Rance. Rance is the founder of needastory.com and the author of Instructional Story Design. He helps leaders and learning professionals to discover, design, and tell powerful stories that drive action and learning. Through his story design methodology, Rance equips organizations to communicate with clarity, empathy, and purpose, bringing humanity back to training in an age increasingly influenced by technology and AI. So with that, Rance, I'm going to go ahead and hide myself from the screen. Let you take over. We do have a few questions. So actually, maybe I should just stick around for now. Did you want to get your slides up, and then we can
We'll have
start
a little
the
conversation
conversation that way?
first. We'll talk a little bit first.
Okay. All
Hi,
right.
everybody. It's nice to see some familiar faces over here. Some people from the School of Story Design, some old friends, new friends. It's great to be back, Lewis.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think that when we were kind of discussing this session, when I thought about you, Rance, and just sort of the way that you approach things, you would ask for sort of some ideas of, like, what are you thinking? And I know that for myself, like, sort of the impact like technology is having on me, and just and its relationship to story. I'm so glad that you kind of came up with this idea of talking about humanizing training, especially in regards to what's going on with AI.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I guess we'll start with, can I ask like the first question that I have for you?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. What risks do you see if instructional designers lean too heavily on AI generated content?
Oh, yeah, I love that question. And before I give my take on that, I'd really like to hear what your listeners have to say about that. So we have a lot of instructional designers on the call today. Luis's question: what risks do you see if instructional designers lean too heavily on AI generated content? How would you answer that question? You
Oops.
can put your answer in the chat. So Vicky says less originality. Elizabeth, so you might produce something that comes across as boring. or less diverse, less maybe I think what I'm getting at, Elizabeth, is like less customized to that learning audience. Um, Zoe, less human design. Allison, less nuance, depth, and ability to spark the light bulb moment. Okay, good. Right. And I think that some of the reasons behind what Allison just said is like really only you know who your learners are. AI is going to have a hard time picking up on all the nuance of who you're training. Rachel, stale, no emotion behind it. Dawn, inaccurate information. That's definitely a risk. Shelly, hi, Shelly Etzenhauser. Accuracy, yep. Alicia, hello, Alicia. Not very realistic. Lisa Nicholson, text, speaker notes don't sound like real humans. Okay, thank you, Lisa. Depends on the creativity of the prompting. It has to be a partnership, more human, little AI. Yeah, good. I think Josh, um, his name is Cavalier, would have some things to say about that too. Hi, Christy Tucker. Come hear Christy speak when she's speaking later this week. Risks people not trusting it, loss of authenticity. Nice. You know, Christy, I just had an experience where somebody posted something on LinkedIn that was AI generated, and I made a comment about it, like, "Wow, how did you get that shot? That's amazing." And they're like, "Oh, well, it's AI generated." And so, like my trust in the LinkedIn posting and stuff, I'm like, well, what if that was AI generated? What else is AI generated? What is authentic? So that's a really great point, Christy. Jessica risks creating something shiny and pretty, but lacking substance. Thank you, Jessica. I think some people would argue that it's not very pretty sometimes. Hey, Teresa Diaz, it's good to see you too. AI is only as good as the content that it draws from, and if there aren't authentic personal narratives as input, the output could seem less real, less true. Good. Michelle may not use the audience analysis effectively. Good, Michelle. It's good to see you, Michelle. Kim, I think Kim is also speaking later this week. I agree with Christy. Learners will be able to tell, I think, might impact the reputation of the company in the long run. Good. Leaning too high will eventually train AI even more and therefore will wipe out ID jobs. Rakesh, say it's not true. Nicole, false information. Elisabetta, we start thinking less. Interesting. Good. Julia, unhappily, I have witnessed a course online on one of our products fed by our public facing marketing slicks on that product. An engineer learning from that course would still not be able to do the work of installing and configuration. Work slop. Yeah. Good. Good. Okay. Thank you guys. Uh, Louise, I think that's a really nice kind of big picture view of all the different aspects of some of the risks of IDs leaning too heavily upon AI generated content. Did any of those stand out to you as something like, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking? Or
Definitely, like even especially like Elizabeth was saying, we start thinking less, and I feel like that's something that AI is doing to me. Is I'm finding myself less inclined to do the work that I feel like I need to that actually appeals to myself, like as somebody that likes to reflect and think and like even just generating stories. I mean, if would you be an educator if you couldn't generate stories? Well, I mean, like, what would happen to your career if you weren't capable of, or you weren't asked to do that anymore? So,
yeah,
yeah, no, I love everything that was posted.
cool. Cool. Yeah. So we're going to come back to what drew your attention well is like we stop thinking less. So I'm going to share my screen and something might happen. I might actually appear twice, but have no fear.
Wow.
um, Let me share. There we go. Okay. Okay, so you should be seeing something that says stakeholder at the top. Are you seeing that, Luis?
Yes.
You are. Okay, good. All right. So when we think about our jobs as instructional designers, usually our job begins when a stakeholder comes to us and says, we need training for our managers. And so they tell you, hey, we need some our managers are really lousy at um, training, at conducting one-on-one, with their one-on-ones with their direct reports. So now we have some tools at our disposal to create a course for these managers, such as we have a lot of technology that we could use. Some of that technology is search engines. Some of it is AI, generation type tools that we could go to develop this course. So as you view this course, I'd like you to view it with a critical eye and ask yourself, how do I feel when I watch this course? And ask yourself a second question, why do I feel that way? So, how do I feel and why do I feel that way? So, we're going to see a possible course that has been created for this particular stakeholder. And here's how it begins. And we can continue on. We have some learning objectives. So as we're going through this course, you're asking yourself, how do I feel? Why do I feel that way? You can start recording your answers in the chat right now if you want to. All right, what is a one-on-one meeting? All right, we have a little definition in case our managers didn't know what a one-on-one meeting was. I have this nice little AI generated image here. Okay, what's the purpose? One-on-one meeting. All this content has been provided to us courtesy of ChatGPT. Okay, so yeah, hopefully your eyes aren't glazing over too much. All right. And then we have this wonderful break from all of that text where now all of the stuff is going to be chunked. Woohoo, chunked. And we even have a scenario. And the answer is, what? It's not C? Try again. And this has to be the one, since it's so detailed and long and different than all the other options. Okay, good. We got it right. And here's our assessment. Because if you can do this activity right here, you can conduct a one-on-one with your direct report. That's right. If you can drag and drop these steps in the correct order, congratulations, you passed. Click the X in the top right-hand corner of the screen to receive credit for this awesome, awesome course. All right, so let's see what you're putting in the chat. The first thing I see, okay, now, yeah, you're seeing two of me. Sorry about that. It's clickety, clickety, bling, bling. Thank you, Cami Bean, for that uh, little phrase. I haven't heard that before. That's cool. So now, what are you saying here? Death by PowerPoint. It's a lot to read. Starla, too much text. Death by bullet point. Speaking of which, if you haven't seen that recording that Luis was talking about earlier, we were talking about bullets. Information dump. Laura just is laughing and crying because that's the only option, right? Is either laugh or cry. Thank you, Alicia. Sometimes I think this is the difference between learning objectives and performance objectives. Kim, I love that. We're going to talk about that. Laura, too formulaic, too dry, not experiential, not training the person to practice the behavior they will actually be exhibiting. Love you, Laura. Nice. Caroline, no engagement, very shallow. Might as well tell them to Google it instead of making a course, right? Or use Chat GPT. Why not? Shelley, listing learning objectives. I don't care. Just get me through this. Thank you, Shelley. Probably they know why they are taking this course. They don't need a list of learning objectives. Rakesh, constructivistic. Okay, now you throwing out the $5 words. Self-proclaiming its excellence. Okay, good. Yeah, so this is the result of possibly relying on something external to create content. And this is the result. Your reaction here is the result of that. What do we risk by using this method of creating courses? And don't lie, you've taken those kinds of courses. And maybe you've even created one of those types of courses. But what do we risk when we do that? Well, we risk a lot of the things that you listed before. But I'm going to hone in on 3 of them. But before we get to that, what suggestions do you have for humanizing this learning experience? Go ahead and put your suggestions in the chat. And while they're doing that, Louise, do you want to share your reaction to that course and what you might suggest to humanize it better?
I would love to, but I'm actually trying to figure out how I can get rid of the duplicate screen here. So I'm going to do something really quick, and hopefully, I'm sorry, but if you disappear, just come back, okay? Because I do see something
Okay.
that might work here but let me just, oh, wait, actually it disappeared on me. All right. Well, Crowdcast support is on it, so we'll see what happens.
It's okay. You're living 2 of me, so it's fine.
Right,
Totally.
right. Let me put this so that everyone stays focused on this second question. Let me go ahead and pop that on the screen. And I personally, for myself, because I do, like, where I work for a company called O'Reilly Media, and they want AI integrated into everything. They want it,
Mhm.
every process that we have, like, the more that we use AI, the better. And hopefully nobody from there watches this, but um I sometimes just refuse to do it. Like, I know that I could, like, just go to Google Gemini, or that's primarily the one we're supposed to use, and ask questions and figure something out that way. But I won't. I will actually, like, search up a book or search up an article and actually just do what I've always done to try to find something, because I feel like the processes that are happening when I'm doing that are what I don't want those to go away. I don't want the curiosity and the challenge
Yeah.
to disappear. Um, and I feel like if you're generating story, the whole process of doing that is actually, it's almost like exercise,
Mhm.
in a way. And so
Yeah.
yeah, and so just for it to remain relevant, I feel like that, for it to continue to have that human centered approach, you still have to you just have to still do the work. But
Yeah,
now it's like you have to do it for you and not do it because it would be easier to,
yeah,
to just automate everything.
that's right. That's right. So thank you, Louise, for sharing that. We also have some suggestions about some ways to humanize this very dehumanized learning experience. Allison says, add meaningful scenarios, add the why, the how. Um, it actually impacts the employees. Laura says, putting a person on video and varying formats rather than being text only. Try giving situational analysis and simulations so the learning translates into action. More emotional intelligence, more humanity in the storytelling. Empathize with your learner both emotionally and cognitively and tap into what would resonate with them. So, Laura, that's a white paper. Okay, so you just need to like flesh all that out and publish it. That's good. Elisabetta, use a different language, some irony, some fun. Um, Caroline says, I hear just kicking it might make it work. Starla, I freelance, but I'm also finding a lot of clients are really wanting me to use AI. So replying to what you just said, Luis. Good. Okay. Um, and then, got some props from Laura about curiosity, challenge, and all of those wonderful things that we get to exercise as humans. So these are great. I'd like to just share three major risks, and then I'll answer the question that's on the screen there. And I want to do that by asking three questions. The first question that we can ask ourselves, and when you, I'm going to ask you to look at the outcome of your training. So this is the first question. Oh, is it showing backwards? Okay,
No, it's showing the right way for me.
it is. Okay, great. So, do we, it's showing backwards for me. Do we demand that our learners think deeply or just enough to pass a quiz? Do we demand that our learners think deeply or just enough to pass a quiz? If this is how, if we can answer this honestly, when we look at the result, when we look at our own training, and we're like, we don't really require our learners to think that deeply, then it could be that you are relinquishing something on the design side called critical thinking. So if you're not requiring your learners to critically think in the course, it could be that you yourself are not exercising this wonderful human thing that only we can do, which is called critical thinking. So that's risk number one. That's right, Kim. It's still critical thinking. There are different skills and there are different things that we're training people to do, but they are learning something new or they are changing the way that they're doing things now. And that requires critical thinking. Second question. Are we designing to produce experts or consumers? Are we designing to produce experts or consumers? And when we ask ourselves this question, do our courses create experts? Um, and if we can't say that, if we're just, like, well, no, they're just consuming content, um, but they're not expected to become an expert in whatever you're training them to do, then it could be that you're relinquishing some of your own expertise as a designer. When we look at the course that we just viewed, um, that I just showed you, like anybody could have created that course. Anybody could have done a search in ChatGPT and come up with basically the same information and input it on a slide. So if expertise is not needed, instructional designers aren't needed. Don't relinquish your expertise as a professional learning and development person. Expertise. That's the second risk. The third risk in leaning too heavily on technology. The question I would like you to ask yourself is, does our training require proof of skills or passive knowledge? Does our training require proof of skills or passive knowledge? If it's just passive knowledge, then the risk we are taking is that we are not holding ourselves accountable to our profession. And that can easily happen if all we're doing is copying and pasting content into a slide. We must hold ourselves accountable to the standard of what is evidence-based learning. Give people practice, give them feedback on their work, make them an expert in what they're doing. So those are the three risks. I don't know if somebody might be able to just type those into the chat. Critical thinking, we risk critical thinking, expertise, and accountability if we are leaning too heavily on something besides our own brains to design courses. Thank you, Ken. So now let's answer this question that's on the screen. You've already given some great advice on what could make this course more humanized. I'd like to give you a very specific answer to this question by sharing this method that I have written about called instructional story design. There's a book of the same name. And I'm going to, but before I get into sharing the revised version of this course, I'd like to share with you the heart of instructional story design. And that is called the story design model. So a lot of you are familiar with this because you've either read the book or you're in the School of Story Design. But the story design model, we're going to start up here with the story and then down below with the action that we're requiring people to take as a result of training. So our story for training cannot be something that is separate from training. It's got to be integrated into the course itself and produce this particular action. So there's all this space in the middle, and we're going to fill it in. We're going to fill it in with, first of all, the components of a story. In the chat, what are the components that make a story a story? Yes, Dawn. Characters, a plot. Yep, the action is up and down. Good. Yep, plot, Alana. A turning point, conflict. Carrie, thank you. So you've already identified the two essential components of a story that must be present in a story for training. And those are relatable characters and strong conflict. I use the term relatable to describe characters because our learning audience must have some empathy for those characters. And I use the word strong to define conflict because I want to remind all of us instructional designers who like to tell people exactly how things are to go, don't deny it. We're all in the same boat, that we do have to have conflict in our stories. There must be conflict. And when you put relatable characters into strong conflict, it produces this wonderful thing inside of the learner called a desire for resolution, right? They want to see how the characters are going to get out of this. And once the story for training has sparked that desire for resolution inside of the learner, it's done its work. But we've still got this gap. What goes there? Obviously, instruction. And not just any kind of instruction that leverages the power of this story, that leverages the desire for resolution that people have once they've encountered the story, and then ties it to the action that they need to take as a result of this training. Okay, so that's the story design model. You can screenshot it if you want. But how does it look? Like, how does this actually play out? I'd like to share that with you. So keep in mind the course that was just created for these managers for one-on-one training. Okay. All right. So this is the opening of the course. You'll be rocking it. Let's start it. It starts with a video. So let's watch the story. And as you watch the story, look for relatable characters, strong conflict. At the end of the story, do you have this desire for resolution?
Hi, Natalia. Come on in. What's up?
I'm here for my one-on-one.
Sorry, yeah. I've been working on a report for management and sorry, time just slipped by so quickly.
Should I come back another time?
No, we can do it now. Just let me get your file. There it is. Okay, how's it going?
Well, I'm a bit flustered after the call I just took. They were pretty mad.
Yeah, sometimes there's just no calming them down. You can escalate those calls if you need to.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like you've made some progress over the last 5 months. Great work. One thing you need to work on is using the resources online more proactively.
I know. I've been working on that.
I know it's difficult to put yourself out there and walk on your own, but all of our customer advocates have to face their fears, so to speak, and trust their training.
Yes, I understand. It's not fear. I'm still getting the resources under my belt for all of the systems we operate.
I'm sorry, Natalia. Hold on just a sec. It's just a quick ping from my manager. Yes, I have the report for you in an hour. Sheesh, you'd think the building was on fire with those guys. What were you saying now? You understand? That's good. Let's review your production numbers. Last month was a lot better. That's great. You're really improving, Natalia. If you can get call times down a few more minutes, you'll be rocking it.
Okay. So we've seen a story. We see these characters. This is a training for managers who are conducting a one-on-one. So this manager is in a similar situation, doing things that these managers themselves are doing because they don't know how to conduct a one-on-one. And by the end, there's this uneasy feeling, like this desire for resolution at the end. So now I'd like to show you how instructional story design leverages the power of that story to keep that humanized feeling going. The story was written by a person after extensive interviews with the client or with the stakeholders. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment. So how do you think Natalia feels? She could be feeling, any one of these ways. It's not a right or wrong question. It's just an opportunity to reflect back on the story. Why do you think she feels that way? Okay, she's afraid of making mistakes. Is she really afraid? She didn't express fear. What is a more likely reason here? Oh, she doesn't believe Colin has heard her. And you'll see in the feedback is giving us more information about what the learner has, how they have responded. And then we have this question here, what might Colin do? How might Colin listen and respond? So we see the story on the left, a little bit from the story. I'm a bit flustered by a phone call. They were pretty mad. And then we have these options on the right. I understand. Did you resolve it? I understand. Would you like to talk about it? I understand. You want me to help? And so all of these are plausible answers, depending on how one answers. Yeah. Give them some more information in the feedback that explains why their answer is correct. Okay. What else did you notice? And then the course continues. So what just happened there? We saw a story. We observed it. It produced a desire for resolution in us. We gave the learners a chance to reflect. We gave them a chance to solve. And we gave them feedback. Notice that the feedback came at the very end. And all of this method of instructional story design keeps that story front and center. And we start with a story and we leverage that story all the way through. And so we have these two versions. The version on the left, created by ChatGPT, the version on the right, created by a human for a human. All right, I would love to hear your thoughts on on instructional story design. That version of the course. How did you feel? Why did you feel that way? So Starla says engaging. Why was it engaging for you? Alana, how can this be incorporated when there is more information that needs to be given to the learner in order for them to solve the problem? Yeah. Yep, so all the information they need is right there in the story. And if they need more help, put a link to a job aid, and they can figure it out by using the story and the job aid to figure that problem out. Exactly, Kim. That's good. That is kind of the intention of the story. Starla, it was engaging because it would be something that I would encounter as a manager. Yes, absolutely. Elisabetta, put yourself in the shoes of the employee and you felt for her, which is a great outcome, because if managers If you, as a manager taking this course, can feel something for the employee, yeah, that's good. You have empathy for your own employees. Rochelle, very relatable, very real world, making it more engaging. And so bringing that reality, keeping that conflict alive in the story really the makes that story feel like it's in real life. It's not isolated. Good. So, Rakesh, I would disagree about stereotypes. I don't feel like it was based on an audience profile. The characters were based on an audience profile. And so taking all the demographics and everything into account is very tailor-made for this group of managers. Connecting, reflecting, seeking resolution. Yep. Non-AI was very informative and effective. The storytelling used critical thinking in a very impressionable way. Thank you, Vicky. Alicia, learners can see themselves in the story, the characters, and the conflict. And Starla, humans learn so much better from storytelling. That is one reason this is so effective. Yeah, exactly, Starla. Good. I'm glad that you feel that way too. And we think back to the risks. When we think about, do we demand that our learners think deeply or just enough to pass a quiz? When you use stories as the centerpiece, you have something for them to observe that they can critically think about. When you think about the question, are we designing to produce experts or consumers? Right, so they're heavily involved in critically thinking and solving problems in this course, so they're gaining expertise. And then lastly, does our training require proof of skills or passive knowledge? Now, within this e-learning course, there's a level of proof of skills for sure, that would have to continue outside the course as well. Okay, how did they do on their last one-on-one with their direct report? But doing so keeps them accountable, and it keeps us as designers accountable. So that's my very specific way of ensuring that a course remains humanized. Instructional story design. Are there more questions, Louise?
I don't see any more questions. Wait, let me take a look here. See, Julia is saying, common in places where managers are doing more direct work than actually managing. Naturally, the manager is anxious to please his boss while missing the cues that his employee is frustrated. Yeah, you can definitely see that. I'm not seeing any other questions, but I do kind of want to ask this one that, Rance, I showed this one to you earlier. And I don't think, like, I know I don't have the answer, but I do know, like seeing, Christy in the audience and, and knowing that there's other folks that are attending that are senior leaders. I have this question in the QA area that is, how can L&D leaders encourage teams to use AI responsibly, without it replacing the curiosity, questioning, and empathy that drive great learning design? I'm actually just really curious about that one. Like, if anybody has any comments on that.
Yeah. Put your answers in the chat. And I think that, asking yourself, if you're an L&D leader, like, give these questions to your employees, to, check themselves. Hey, am I relinquishing some of my own accountability when I'm producing or when I'm creating training? Am I relinquishing some of my expertise or some of my own critical thinking? Those are some good litmus tests.
I do like Nicole's answer. where Nicole says, I use it to help me brainstorm, not write a course.
Yeah. Nicole, that is my view of technology in general, is I view technology as a non-human collaborator. And so if I'm running short on ideas, I need a little bit of outside input to get me down the road a little further. That's how I'll use technology.
Do you think, Grants, that instructional design in particular is kind of challenged more so than maybe other aspects of the workplace? Given like the training and technology piece that we have now, like are we just positioned in a way that makes this a little bit more I don't know, I guess challenged is the word that's really coming to
So
mind.
challenged in that we might feel more pressure to use AI.
Yeah, like how do you, because you're still, I mean, the educator's job is really like to deal with humans,
Right.
right? But then the workplace is just getting filled. I mean, AI is just in everything. Like, you can't open up an app or a piece of software without all of a sudden it's got this AI piece that everyone thinks is super helpful. But
Right.
most times it's just, I don't know, kind of a distraction.
You will never see any responsible person promoting AI as an end product producer, creator thing. They will always say, like Christy says here, human, AI, human. So it has to start with human. Like nobody's going to interview your stakeholders. AI ain't going to do that for you. You got to do it yourself. And then, however you use AI in the middle and then human on the other side. But I've never heard anybody who's responsibly using AI saying, just use whatever it outputs as your end product. No, they will say, check the sources, refine it so that it's human, sounds more human. My question is it taking longer to check AI than it would have been to just use your own brain to create it? So that's another thing that you can just check yourself on is like, how much effort am I putting into the post AI product to make it more human? Would it have been better for me to start, with my own brain instead of AI? What are your thoughts on that?
I know for myself that like like for instance, if I'm building like a landing page or something and I need placeholder text, AI most of the time works. Sometimes I look at whatever my output is and I'm like, nah, that's no good. Um, and then also I do write, like say marketing material for like the band that I'm in. And one thing that I've noticed is that um it's just like an 80s cover band that I'm in. And then, but I've been looking at other 80s cover bands that like come through Instagram or Facebook or wherever that they're promoting. And it's basically outputting the same thing that I am because I'm taking my stuff from Chat GPT, but then I'll look for an advertisement for another sort of competing band of ours, and it's like got the same thing, including the same emojis and icons, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Like, so now I don't use AI for that at all anymore. I just
Yeah,
write my own, like, hey, we're gonna just rock out this night versus like, an AI generated thing
exactly. Yeah.
that just seems really stale.
Yeah, I work with marketing teams and the same thing. Same thing. Like the stuff that they're generating, I take them to their competitors' websites and I'm like, "Look, you just generated exactly the same thing as they did. Where'd you
Right.
get this image? Oh, it was AI generated." Like, yeah, use your brain, use your creativity, be something that is unique. You've got something unique to offer, like offer it. Don't relinquish your creativity to AI. Kim, I like what you're saying here. Um, that's how I use technology in general is research. Research. It's a great way to research, but it doesn't take my brain away, right? Findings out inside knowledge of diverse job fields, I still have to think. I still am very involved in that process. Um, I think AI is a good sparring partner. So Elizabetta, that's a good like way to put it, as a non-human collaborator. Christy, sometimes AI feels faster because the first draft is nearly instantaneous, but in practice, it's not always. You have to track your time and actually see where it helps. I love that. So do that. Track your time. Track your time. Like create something with AI. Track the time that it takes you to do that. Track the time that it takes you to do it on your own with your own intellect. So, Luis, I never, go on a rant about using AI because I feel like, there are people who are using it responsibly and using it in appropriate ways. But I think we can hold ourselves um, in check regarding accountability, critical thinking, and expertise. And if we can just stay the line and make sure that we aren't relinquishing those things to technology, we will remain a viable and a integral part to the business. We won't become expendable. Because I will tell you that if you do give in, if you do relinquish your accountability, your expertise, and your critical thinking to someone or something else, you're very easily replaceable.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. Thank you for pretty much ending on that. That's absolutely the case. That'll probably be the snippet that I'll be sharing out. Another
And
one.
Luis, I do have like a little synopsis of everything that we talked about here today. So maybe can I send that to you and you can send it to everybody?
Absolutely. In fact, I wanted to share with everybody also. We had mentioned before that, since you were doing this, I wanted to share out a couple things that you have going on. You've got this ISD certification and this Vion certification that you're doing. So for anybody that's interested out there, please check those out. And sign up. You're going to be at DevLearn this year, right?
No, I'm going to be
Oh,
at
no.
Training Magazine
Oh, training. Okay.
conference in February.
In
So
February.
I haven't been to that conference in a really long time. And Gary Van Antwerp talked to me. I was like, "Hey, you wanna come?" I was like, "Yes, I do want to come this year." So in the first quarter, I'll be over in Orlando for the Training Magazine
Oh, it's going to
conference.
be in Orlando. Interesting. Okay. All right, cool. Very nice. So if anybody's over there, look for Rance, say hi. You have anything else going on?
Yeah, I actually have a Training Magazine Network session tomorrow, or not tomorrow. I think it's Thursday, and I'll be sharing something a little bit different than what we talked about today. So you're welcome to join there, or just come to the School of Story Design. I'd love to. We got a lot of free events happening there. Would love to see you there too.
Excellent.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Luis.
Well, yeah, thanks, Rance. And everybody, I apologize about the double screen thing. I'm like been, back and forth with Crowdcast trying to figure this out. It's just how it goes. And one other thing, anybody out that it's still logged in, we are doing a D&D game on Friday, and we still could use a couple more players. So if you're interested, hit me up at luis@thetldc.com and let me know if you want to play. We have I don't know, I think 6 players already or so, but we could probably use a couple more. So if you're interested in playing or even just watching that, keep an eye on that. It's on the schedule. That'll be Friday. I think that's going to be a great way to end the week and then get ready for Halloween. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
You guys, bye bye.